So it's September 30th and I am going to go in my garden and do a squash harvest. It's really nice out and I figured that some of my squashes are getting ripe and could probably be harvested. I live in the Pacific Northwest and the rainy season has not started yet, so some of my squash that I think can ripen a little more, I'm gonna keep on the vine and wait until before the rains hit and harvest them before the rains hit. It's really important to keep an eye on the weather and get your squashes harvested before the rains hit, because last year I didn't do that and a lot of my butternut squashes split open. They were still edible, but it just doesn't look pretty and they don't store as long. So yeah, I'm gonna look and see what I got. Right, I definitely have a lot of spaghetti squash that are growing all around. Some look like they're ready. Look at those little bugs all over it. Some look like they're definitely ready, and others look like they have a little bit more time. What are these little bugs? Get out of there. So I'm definitely not going to harvest this spaghetti squash, and I definitely will harvest this one. Notice how I cut the stem as close to the plant as possible to make the stem as long as possible, because this stem will continue to ripen the spaghetti squash. But that really golden yellow is exactly what you're looking for. You can see the difference with these two right here. One is ready to harvest and the other I'm going to leave on the vine longer, but not too long, because I don't want the rains to come and for it to split open. Geez, look at this big one. That is one fine spaghetti squash. Look how dead this vine is. Even with a vine that's like pretty dead, just barely a little green, that squash is still ripening. So even if the vine looks pretty grim, this one is nice and ripe. So I'm going to take this one off of the vine. But this one right here is connected to the same vine, and it isn't quite yellow enough. I don't know if you could see from this distance, but if you look at the colors of yellow, oops. Okay, scratch that thought. I broke it. So because I broke it, we're gonna go ahead and pull it off the vine. So this one could be a little bit more yellow, if you notice the difference. One is just a tad more yellow than the other. This one could be a little more yellow. I could have left it in on the vine, the dead vine, longer if I didn't break it. But this will continue to ripen off the vine, and we'll be fine. So looks like that one's getting harvested today. So this dying vine goes up into this big squashy mess, but it comes back over here, and it does have another squash, spaghetti squash growing on it. And this one, I'm just going to let it get a little bit riper. So I'm going to leave it alone. The end of the vine looks pretty dead, but it'll continue to ripen. There's still some life in the vine, so I'm just going to let that one continue to ripen. Over here we have some butternuts. Now, this butternut got too much water and it split open. This is what I'm talking about. And this butternut is got a little bit of green. You can't really tell because the shadow, but this is not ready. So I'm gonna let that ripen more. I have 2 more butternuts, one here and one here. This butternut, I still see a little bit of green. If you look underneath, there is a little bit of green. This is not ready. I want to see this not so white, but like super tan. Now these butternuts definitely are not ready either. And if you look at this plant, like, look at that. This butternut vine is thriving. Totally alive. So, I mean, this definitely has some more ripening to do. This plant is thriving. There's a little bit of green in the butternut. You can see a little green, kind of like stripes. Yeah, so these definitely have more time. Here is another example of a little butternut that is not ripe. I see all these little lines, like light and darker. It's kind of blotchy looking, like you want a smooth tan. This, still ripening. So over here we have another butternut vine. And this butternut right here is borderline. You could harvest it. It could be ready, but I don't know. I might even want it to go longer. And this is another one that's not ready. All right, I wanted to give you a good butternut example. Whoops. Is that this one is not that tan color. Look how tan this is. This is one that I harvested earlier. It just doesn't have that same super tan color. And I mean, the color is just so slightly different, but this has like this really tan skin tone color, and this one has like green and white color. So I see more green underneath of it. This one not so much. This one, this is a perfect example of the color that you want. All right, we're going into the main garden, and this was full like a jungle, but I've actually pulled and harvested quite a bit. But my bell peppers are looking very red. I definitely will be harvesting these within the next few days. They really can be eaten at any time, but I like them to be fully red. The fully red ones are completely ripe. They are sweeter and they're more nutritious, and they kind of turn a dark color before they turn red. But this one is almost fully ripe, but if you look at the corner there, it is still green and kind of black. So I would actually wait until this whole bell pepper is a bright red. Then I would harvest and eat it. And that would be the optimal ripeness. Tomato plant is doing very good. This is my Big Daddy tomatoes. And I have quite a few on here. I did get some really big ones. I was quite impressed. This thing's huge. This plant is taller than me. But you can also pick these Pick them when they're green like this. Pick them while they're green like this. Put them in your windowsill in the sun, and this will be red within like 3 days, 4 days. All right, here's my cherry tomato plants. Those ones are pear tomatoes. I forgot what these are called. I think they're like sun-kissed or something, but they're these little orange ones. These little orange ones are the sweetest cherry tomatoes. They are like the best. And so I don't think I'm ever gonna grow a red cherry tomato again because these orange ones are just so good. Over here, I have my zucchini. I do have that white mold that's starting on them, but that's okay. I've been cutting the old leaves off, so to make kind of room and less crowded. So, but the zucchini plants are still alive. The weather is shifting, and I'm getting zucchinis. This is a buttercup squash. It grew a little bit late. It got fertilized a little bit late. Pollinated, I should say. And the vine is dead. It is still ripening. And I can stick my fingernail into it. And look, it even kind of bleeds. And so I'm literally just letting it stay on here as long as I can until like the rains hit, to let it ripen as much as it can, because it's still a little soft and it needs time. So I'm just letting this take its time. Even though the plant is dead, I'm letting it ripen here as long as possible. All right, here it is, one of the most exciting ones. This is my watermelon. Giant watermelon. It's very big. I am so excited to harvest this. I will definitely post a video when I harvest this and when I cut it open and see what's inside. I am waiting for before the rains hit to harvest it. The wick is still fully green, so I'm letting it really take its time. It is huge. I am so excited. I just want to see if I can give you guys an idea about how big this melon is. Oh my gosh. I'll definitely weigh it too. Oh, I can hardly lift it at this point. It has no end rot. It's completely healthy. No, not. And then the dog starts barking. Here's another part of my garden that I have basically cleared out. I do have some cabbages right over here, and if you look right here, there's this little white butterfly. Those right there, they're the culprit of all my cabbage problems. They lay little eggs on my cabbages, which turn into cabbage worms and eat my cabbage. And that's why my cabbage has all the holes all over it, because cabbage worms. Here is a cabbage that I have not harvested yet. It actually looks really good. I'm gonna let it get a lot bigger. I have to check them. I just freaking saw a slug in there and it fell. Oh, I got him. Slugs, bad. But I have to check them. We can look on the back of the leaves to see if there's any eggs. If there is an egg on the back of the leaf, oh, right here. Right here, there it is. There is a cabbage worm. We just pick them off, if I can grab them. And I just squished them with my finger. We just rub them on a rock and get rid of them. I will wash my hands after this too. But yeah, we check the cabbage leaves, but it'll be fine. The cabbage looks nice and healthy looking cabbage. This will get like double this size. So I'm going to let this continue to grow. Over here, I already harvested the cabbage. And inside where the old cabbage was, there are little baby cabbages that are growing. Look how cute those are. And these little baby cabbages, here, all of it, will grow another little cabbage. And I'll be able to harvest those cabbages, so then I get more use out of one plant. I check the back for eggs. There's eggs all over this. Oh my gosh, see these little things right there? I squish them. Squish. Oops, ripped it. Right here. Eggs. Yeah. Squish the eggs. I have to come out here like every couple days and actually spend some real time on my cabbage plants, just so they don't get completely eaten by those little butterfly eggs. Little cabbage worms, I should say. Here, I already harvested this one. And here, and here, there's already little baby cabbages. And I noticed too that after harvesting the cabbage, little cabbages started growing out here too. They're almost kind of like Brussels sprouts, but different. But so I will get everything I can get out of these cabbages. This is my fall sugar snap peas that I had already planted. And I kind of guide them up this string so they can grow. Just kind of guide them. But they'll just kind of climb up this whole thing and take up this whole fence. I have them on the other side too. Sugar snap peas. I have some garlic here that I planted earlier this summer that are growing, and these won't be ready till next summer. They take like about 2 years, but these are garlic. Here I have a celery plant that I started from seed at the beginning of the year, so I'm excited to see how this turns out later this year. And these tend to be pretty cold hardy. Right here I have a bunch of sweet potatoes and yams. I will probably harvest these before the frost hits. We'll see. Alright, here it is. I still have about a dozen still outside that are ripening. But this is what I've harvested so far this year, and I have also already eaten a couple of them. So definitely a good yield from my garden. All right, so the types of squashes that I have here are the spaghetti squash, the butternut squash, the delicata squash, the acorn squash, and the buttercup squash. Before I started my healthy lifestyle journey, I really was not crazy about squash, but since changing my relationship with food, developing my taste buds to like healthy food, I love squash. And starting with these spaghetti squashes, the cool thing about these is these will last all year long if they're stored properly. If you store them in a cool, dark space like your garage, someplace that doesn't freeze, these will last all year long, and they resemble like an angel hair pasta. So good for making like cheesy noodles substitute or spaghetti. Just a healthy version for a low carb option. Butternut squash are also one of my favorites. They remind me kind of like a McDonald's French fries or something. I don't know. They're really good. I like to cut them, take the seeds out, use a potato peeler and peel them, and then cut them into pieces and put them in olive oil and saute them with salt and pepper and whatever else seasonings you want. And they just are so good. Also, if you like eating potatoes and eggs, I love to like cut potatoes and onions and do potatoes like that to serve with eggs. Well, you can substitute the butternut squash and it is so good with the eggs. This is my favorite kind of squash. This is delicata squash. Okay, let me get started with this. So the delicata squash is the sweetest squash. It has a kind of like a yam, sweet potato slash really sweet corn taste. It's just very sweet. And that's why it's called delicata. I'm sure in some language, maybe Spanish, that's like delicacy. I'm not really sure. I'm guessing, but it is a delicacy. Okay. Now the acorn squash and the buttercup squash are very similar with taste wise, and I developed a taste for things that like aren't super sweet, and so I just like the natural taste of the sweetness of the squash. But people like to bake them with butter and brown sugar, and they love it that way. And I would imagine that they taste really, really good. Both of these cooked like that. The delicata squash, you don't even need to put anything on it. It is already delicious and sweet, just as it is. So I'm just so super excited about being able to grow this. I actually got this out of a food box last year and tried it, and I loved it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I saved the seeds and I grew it myself. So I'm really happy about that. The plant ended up dying and the stem broke. So I ended up harvesting a couple of them that weren't ready. So I have these little baby ones that I harvested, 2 of them. And if you notice, they're still green when the ripe ones are very yellow. And I just keep these in the windowsill, and they will be able to be eaten as they start turning more yellow, tan, whatever. Also, another thing about the butternut squash is when you harvest these, you have to cure them for like 2 months, maybe 3. 2 months, at least a month. I know that last year I didn't cure them. I harvested and ate it, and it was very starchy. And I learned that you have to just let them sit. Don't touch them. Let them sit. Let them sit for a couple months, then eat them. After sitting for a couple months, they were so sweet and good and buttery and nutty and just wonderful. And so I was really pleased with understanding that. So now I can just let mine sit, and I can actually have a good butternut squash that tastes the way it's supposed to taste. I was also talking about how when they get too much water, they split open. This one split open. Now, they actually develop like a protective seal, and they like make a little band-aid on themselves, and it seals it. So even though it's split open, it's still able to be eaten. The flesh inside is still completely good, and so it doesn't matter. But I did read that ones that are split open, they don't store as long as ones that aren't. So I would probably eat this one sooner. But these spaghetti squashes don't need to cure. You could just pick them and eat them just as they are. Very good. So I'm so excited. I am a new gardener. I don't garden. I haven't gardened very much. This is like my 3rd year of gardening, and every year is like a new experiment and learning more and more, and every year I get more and more. So I'm just so excited to be able to stretch these out throughout the winter and eat them, and also just feels so good to be able to nourish my body with healthy things. And yeah, so I know this video went like really long, but I had to tell you guys, okay, I had to tell you guys, this is my squash. I'm a little crazy for squash at this point, but so hopefully you guys got something from it. If not, that's okay too. I'm really excited to look back at this and see my progress over the years. So yeah, till next time.